Hello. Happy Thursday. My name is Shakita Niamke. I'm the founder of Sanctuary Wellness and Education, private practice here in University Heights. And today I'm going to share a few ways that you can help your child get more organized, your child or teen. This is super important, especially as we enter this next round of online distance learning. For parents to keep their sanity is going to be important that, we start to develop these skills in our children and our teens. And so organization is one of those skills that helps us to, for lack of better terms, keep our head, right? So if we have difficulties with organization, it can really create a lot of stress. It can create a lot of stress for our children, especially if they have other executive functioning skill deficits. But it's also going to create stress for parents, because when our kids are, disorganized or don't have a good system in place, then we have to step in typically and provide some additional support. And so I'm going to talk about 3 barriers that I see, especially as it pertains to organization. A couple of the skills I talked about over the past several weeks are other executive functioning skills that are important to help our children, become more self-aware, to advance toward tasks, to meet and reach or set and reach goals, and to emotionally manage ourselves. And so 3 barriers that get in the way of sound organizational skills could be time management skills, which are the skills that we need to estimate how long it takes for us to complete a task. What do we need in terms of what is it going to take to get that task finished, but just to having a good time estimation. Another barrier to good organization skills is task initiation. So just getting started on a task. Sometimes children and teens don't know what to focus on first. And then the third barrier as it pertains to good sound organizational skills is self-awareness. And I say self-awareness because if let me just kind of preface it. So typically, we have our mates, right? So our significant others tend to have some of the skills that maybe we lack, and vice versa. And so if you, for me, I'm not a super neat freak. I like things to be organized. I hate to have to search and look for things. However, I can tolerate a little bit more mess than my husband can. And so my level of self-awareness towards disorganization is not as high as his. That's kind of his thing. He likes to be really organized. He's very, very neat. And so self-awareness may come into play. So let's say you are a really organized person, and then you have a child who is just crazy messy, right? They may not be aware that their environment is disorganized. They may be able to look at it, but it doesn't bother them as much as maybe it bothers you as their parent. So if you're super organized and you go into your child's room, or dare you look into their backpack, and there's chaos in there, they mentally may not, experience stress. You look at it and you're about to have a full-blown heart attack. And so self-awareness around their particular level of organization may be a barrier, because, as parents and as educators, we set the standards for what we think are, appropriate levels of organization. And so I want to talk about a few strategies that we can use. I'm going to break it down for children and teens. For children, with any of the executive functioning skills that we have, or that we're teaching or modeling for our children, we always start on the outside. So we always adjust the environment. Adjusting the environment could be actually, moving the environment, making changes to the task that the child is required to conduct in a certain environment. So anytime you think of things that are environmental as it pertains to developing executive functioning skills, that's going to be outside the child. And so we wouldn't say, this kid needs to practice this skill, if they don't have the skill. We need to figure out how can we support that skill. So for a child who struggles with organization, that's going to be where, kids go to school. There's a place for them to put their coats. They have cubbies. They have a desk. They have a locker. And so those structures are already kind of set out for them to put their things in the appropriate places that we design or we've designated for them. At home, it could be, having rules. Like my son is a really, really messy eater still. And so I don't let him eat in certain areas. Now I'm starting to get a little lenient with that because he kind of wants to eat and watch his movies. But there's always a placemat. Like you need to have a placemat no matter where you are. If you're at the table, you're eating them with a placemat. If you're sitting in front of the TV, you have a placemat. So we create these standards or these rules for our child in our home environment. For a teen, it's going to be important that we work together with the teens to develop their own system. It probably wouldn't do very well for us to create an organization system for our child or our teen, because just think about like a person who tells you like, oh, I really love to use planners. Like I always think I'm going to be a planner person and then I don't, right? I love my iPhone. I use my iPhone to schedule everything. So that's what keeps me organized. My notes go in there. When I go grocery shopping, I create notes. Like I am a person who uses my phone to keep my life organized. I do use notes, but I'm not going to be like scheduling things out on the planner. To me, that's too much work when I can just plug it into my phone. And so you want to work with your child and figure out like what is a good system for them. And I'll give you an example. So my son has historically had difficulties with organization, but also just remembering, right? He had this thing where he would have a planner. They've had planners since he's been in school, and you would think that he would have gotten on board with the planner. However, I had to help him create a system because now he's dealing with his locker. And I was like, look, dude, we're not doing the planner game. We're leaving it in your classroom and you can't find it. And so you don't know what homework you have. And so I said, well, what do you think would be a good way for you to remember? Because even before you get to your locker, you have to remember to get your planner signed. And so we started a little Post-it note system. And so anytime, like if it was something he needed additional help with from his teachers, let's say we were doing math and he couldn't figure out the problem, he would have to go to school and he would need to ask his teacher for additional help. He would write a Post-it note right in his planner. Ask such and such to help me with problem number 3. Then we carry that over to the locker because when he opens his locker, his mouth is running. He's talking to his friends. He's trying to rush out the building. I said, well, what do you think you can do before you even start to pack up your bags? Well, he's like, well, I can put a Post-it note on my locker reminding me to make sure that my planner is filled out and signed. I said, cool. Once we started to organize that, because I asked him what would work. Now it'd be different if I said, hey, let me put this in your phone and let me organize you and get you all set up. But if he didn't help, I won't say if he didn't help, but that's my system. That system I tried with him, it didn't really work. So he wanted to write things down because maybe the act of writing it down kind of triggered something for him. The Post-it notes are bright neon color, so he sees it right when he opens the locker. And so we started to get traction with bringing that planner home signed and with the assignments inside of it. That's not to say that it's a foolproof system. Just like my electronic phone system is not foolproof, neither are the organization systems that you're going to set up with your child. However, getting them started with understanding, okay, what's the best way that I can keep my life together? If your child plays sports, if they're in high school, maybe they are volunteering, maybe they have a job. And it's going to be important that they stay organized. If you have a child who plays multiple sports and or has a job, they're going to need their uniform for work. They're going to make sure that they have all of their sports materials in their book bag or in their sports bag. They're going to need to make sure that they have their homework and allocating time for that. So organization is super important at all levels. However, when we get to the teenage years, we want to work with our children and our teens to make sure that the organization system that they implement is something that's unique to them, something that they can, repeat and they can reuse repeatedly so that it's effective. And so I think we're almost done with all of the executive functioning skills. Next week, we're going to go into one of my favorite topics out of all of the 10 executive functioning skills, which is self-awareness. Self-awareness is typically like the highest level of executive functioning that an individual can achieve. And so I'm going to go into that next week. And I'm really excited about that. So If you found this video helpful, let me know. Let me know in the comments. Let me know what kind of organization systems do you use with your teenager. I want to see people who have teenagers who maybe had difficulty with organization. I'm curious to know, like, what are some things that you implemented to help get your child organized? If you have a child and really struggle with organization or any of those other skills, time management, self-awareness, starting task on time, I encourage you, if you are in the Cleveland area, to reach out and do 15-minute consultations to kind of get an idea of what you're struggling with. What is this particular skill or set of skills preventing your child from being able to do? It could be preventing them from being successful in class, or preventing them from moving forward in college, because college, we really rely heavily on our executive functioning skills in college because our parents are gone, right? And so now we have all of these things that we have to do, and it's important that we know how to do them and when to do them. And so I encourage you to click there. I'll put the link down in the comments. You can call or you can send an email, and I would be happy to kind of go over and then go over what problems you have or questions you have. If you have just a general question, you can shoot me a DM, and I'll see you guys next week.